Okay, that's the official ding that we are now recording again.
Nice.
So starting these meetings off right by letting everybody know that we're recording. Obviously they know since they're watching it, but so today on the OAC, we're going to be talking about bathrooms. Again, I know, super exciting subject. But before we begin, we're the OAC, which is the OAC is actually a short acronym for owner, architect, and contractor meeting that is typically held within larger projects. But we decided to use that as sort of like our OAC meeting, and we talk about construction, different facets of construction for commercial or residential type projects. And we are Rooster General Contractors, and we do residential remodels, commercial construction as well. Small, large projects. We just like to build things. So that's our short little pitch, intro commercial. But what makes us different from other people, do you think, John?
Integrity. The relentless desire to be honest and to do good work, to have the willingness to deliver bad news and to have to confront uncomfortable situations rather than telling a white lie or skirting around an issue. I think that is one of the things that helps us stand out and makes our product and service of high quality.
Do you think people respect that more? Or do you think we're more like the bad guys at that point?
I would certainly hope that customers would appreciate that.
Yeah.
You know, I've definitely been honest with customers before, and you know, I've seen it go both ways.
Yeah.
Or you deliver bad news, you can almost always expect people not to be happy about it. Some people have the presence of mind to hear what you are saying and to receive it and to trust you as an expert. And some people hear it and they do not receive it, and they kind of get a burr in their butt. And, you know, that might prove to be a challenge for any length of time moving forward. But nonetheless, that doesn't bother me.
I guess you can't, because it's our job.
Yeah. I've been chewed out before. I've been cussed at. It's okay.
Yeah, same here. Different background, but yes.
Yeah.
So got a couple of topics of questions that we can talk about on this OAC. Obviously, we're talking about bathrooms, but so as a homeowner, if I'm getting ready to remodel my bathroom, what do I need to know? Like, long story short, what are the 3 phases to remodeling a bathroom?
Well, I guess you have to think about it. There's design, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's estimating. I find it works best if you work with a contractor through design so that they're able to provide a real-time estimate as you switch things out and kind of make critical decisions, especially if you're working within a budget. That's very helpful. And then the third phase, the third phase might be construction, you know. And construction really can be divided into 2 things, and that would be your rough in and your underground, and then your finish out work. Some people, depending on what part of the country you're in, might call it trim out. So
It's pretty simple.
Yeah.
Do you think a homeowner needs to know everything about those different phases, or do you think that there's a certain level that they need to know about when going into a project to understand it, what it is the contractor is doing?
I think that I think the honest answer to that question, kind of tying this in with our opening sequence, I think the honest answer to that question would be that no, the customer doesn't need to understand everything that's going on, right? The customer doesn't need to understand what your permit process is like with any given city. You know, the customer, if you're in an HOA, doesn't need to necessarily understand all of the regulations imposed on builders. It's all just a bunch of bureaucratic garbage that you got to go through for most projects that we do. The customer doesn't need to understand design requirements. They don't need to understand plumbing and electrical code. They don't need to understand rebar, concrete reinforcement, mixed design. They don't need to understand any of that. What they need to understand is what are they purchasing and how are we verifying that they are receiving what they have purchased. Now, all of that being said, because I can see how that might sound like someone trying to pull the wool over your eyes, because more often than not, our customers think that they need to understand everything and ask as many questions as we will going into a project. So while I don't believe it is necessary for a person to understand everything, I will work at lengths to help someone understand anything that they desire to understand. So I don't think it's necessary for a customer to know whether or not you need to use 1/2-inch copper or 3/4-inch copper pipe on a water line, where it's appropriate to use copper versus PEX. I don't think a customer needs to know that, but if they want to know about it, we can talk about it.
Fair enough. And so as far as the design, estimating, and possibly the value engineering VE aspect of it, how do you go about budgeting for a remodel from like a homeowner standpoint? So if I want to take my bathroom that was designed and built 1970s, 12 by 6, if I'm looking at it, how should I put together a budget for myself and then getting contractor bids?
So it's kind of a tough question to answer as far as where to start. The first thing a person needs to ask themselves is, why am I doing this? Why are you redoing your bathroom? Do you have microbial growth and you need to rip things out and get it cleaned up and put back together? That's a health concern, right? Do you need to change the layout to make it more practical or ergonomic? Do you simply want to freshen up your design? Are you trying to stay with the times, trendy, whatever word you want to use? So you have to ask yourself why, and then you have to very seriously ask yourself, all right, well, what can I afford? It's very rare that we encounter a customer that has already made every decision that needs to be made for a project, especially for bathroom remodels. For bathrooms and kitchens, more often than not, I run into someone who has an idea. They very rarely has someone even picked out colors or materials or whatever. When I talk to someone sometimes they might have a couple samples scattered around and they're like, this is what I'm thinking, right?
Mhm.
So when I talk to that person, I can usually gauge what their budget might be by the time I get to meet them, because I see what part of town they're in, I see what house they're in, all of that good stuff. And so from there, I'm able to look at someone and say, look, you need a $4 per square foot floor tile budget, and you go pick out whatever floor tile you want, you send it to me, and if it fits that budget, then great. If not, I can give you a little bit of direction.
And that's more to kind of keep the value of their home in line, right?
Yeah,
Or better.
per square foot floor tile is like really middle of the road, like
Okay.
just super middle of the road stuff. You know, and tile is one of those things that your costs can vary so much based on the size of the tile, the material it's made out of, the design, all of that great stuff. So, but that's where someone needs to start, is when you come into a conversation with me, you need to have a broad perspective of the style of design that you would like, and you need to have a realistic budget, because if you give me a number, I can tell you how we hit that number. If you look at me and you say, man, I got $15K to spend, I can give you a $15K bathroom, and we'll, no matter what, our delivery is always clean. It's always going to be a top-notch finish, whether you've got a $2 per square foot floor tile budget or a $10 per square foot floor tile budget. Rooster's execution is consistent. Now, if you show up and you say, I'm going for like a farmhouse or a, what do people like in Dallas? Is it that
Mid-century modern?
Mid-century modern, or like a transitional kind of style, that kind of deal. If you come to me and you're like, I've got an old mid-century modern home right off 635 and I've got a budget of 21K, then by golly, we'll get you there. That's not hard for me to do. So if people have that, we can help them win really fast.
So when do you look at value engineering a project, VE project? So like example, we were working on estimate for a home remodel out in Irving, and they're wanting to add in additional walls, move plumbing and whatnot for their existing bathrooms to, make a closet bigger. Whenever you're looking at something like that and trying to stay within somebody's budget, what do you evaluate as necessary versus not?
So as far as VE goes, what I deem to be necessary and what the city or IBC is going to deem necessary is primarily going to be structural and mechanical.
Mhm.
There are things that we simply do not compromise on with the integrity of any person's home. What customers tend to deem as necessary tends to be features, or it tends to be a design component. Like I cannot do this project without frameless glass. That's what a customer would say, right?
Right.
I would say I cannot do this project without remediating groundwater and repouring your slab. Heaven forbid that we do any saw cutting to move a drain line and we find groundwater, right? But that's what I would look at. And so when it comes to VEing a project, I'll come in and I'll do a schedule of values for the whole thing. And usually by the time we get there, we've had a conversation with the customer as to what it is that they desire the most.
Yeah.
And so, if the customer's budget is $100 and we're at $120, then I go in and I think, what could this project do without that would deliver the same function and feeling in the home for the budget that the owner has? Now, all of that can be avoided. All of that can be avoided by going through design with your contractor and estimating as you go with a goal budget in mind. So VE is something that we do when people are out of sync. If there's something that we don't know, either because it hasn't been shared with us or because it's unclear in our customer's own thoughts, that is more than likely what's going to lead us to VE.
Gotcha. Okay. So it's just narrowing that scope just a little bit further and making improvements on a design. So once we get done with that, so then we got construction part, like the actual rough in. What does rough in construction mean?
So rough in is any of your rough material, hidden work kind of stuff. So, and again, all over the country, people kind of have different names for this stuff, right? But for something like HVAC, it's setting equipment, it's running duct, it's running drain lines, it's installing boots, any of that kind of stuff. It would be framing, it would be running conduit and pulling leads for electrical. It's just so on and so forth. You get it, right? Any of that stuff. In regards to a bathroom remodel, it's obviously going to be moving any pipe, changing out any valves. It's going to be, if you have to, like I said before, saw cut and move any drains, any of that kind of stuff is rough in work.
So this is like all that preliminary structural type stuff before you put in your drywall or your tile or anything like that. This is before the nice stuff comes in.
Yes. It's the inspection that counts.
Gotcha. And so, just as an offshoot question, how do you go about keeping a space clean whenever you've got guys coming and going inside the house? Stuff's being cut, stuff's in the air, maybe smells going on. From an owner standpoint, it's like the last thing I need is to be vacuuming at night, cleaning up sawdust or muddy footprints or something like that. So I guess whenever you're looking at remodeling a bathroom, which is most typically in an occupied space, how do you go about protecting that space?
So it depends on the scope of work you're doing based on the intensity of containment that we might provide. There are instances in which you might need to use negative air and run a temporary duct line out a window. And that's something that we're more likely going to do in a place where sanitation is life-saving. So again, if we run into microbial growth, black mold, that kind of stuff, we're going to seal the site using a heavy gauge plastic, no less than like 8 millimeters. We would go through, we'd have like a zip for access, but you'd put a HEPA negative air machine and run duct out of the area until the mold or whatever microbial growth had been treated and sealed. Okay. We may also be able to, sorry about that. That ding was from my email. My email is now gone. There will no longer be any dings.
You're good.
And in a less intense situation than if we're working in a hospital or a restaurant, or if there's mold or whatever, which I assure you there is almost always mold. If you're dealing with a wet area, bathroom, kitchen, restaurant kitchens, mop sinks, all that good stuff, there's always mold. It's a question of how much. So just as a side note, it's a good rule of thumb to say that you should remodel your bathroom probably every decade or so, just to keep an eye on what's going on inside your walls. But that's an aside. Nonetheless, containment for a regular job, we're going to put up our plastic. That's going to keep construction debris like gypsum or silica dust from floating around in your house and landing on your nightstand and your toothbrush and your bed and all that stuff, right? So we'll set up containment in the path from containment to our dumpster. We roll out plastic. We'll cover anything like a bed or a dresser or whatever that might be in our path. We'll cover that with additional plastic. That's to control dust, and the containment helps control smells. When we open up a drain, we immediately cap it. We stuff a rag in it, and then we put saran wrap over the top. And then at the end of the day, all of that plastic gets pulled down, rolled up. We vacuum what we need to vacuum, and we mop what we need to mop.
Sounds pretty extensive.
It is. I definitely learned the hard way. I've this is a funny story, man. So I was doing an HVAC change out, full system change out. So that means new ductwork, new line set, new drain, new unit, everything, right? And it's probably like 100+ degrees outside, and I'm in this family's attic, and so it's like 130 in the attic. It's nuts, right?
Right.
And I kept sweating and sweating and sweating, and I couldn't really see, and I had my glasses on, and I was walking the joists carrying a new piece of duct, and I couldn't see where I was stepping, and I stepped on top of the drywall and fell straight through on top of the customer's bed. Not before I racked myself on a ceiling joist. That felt great. But I fell straight through on their bed, and they had blown in insulation in their attic. And so all of that insulation came down with it, man. And we had to cover everything and, sweep it up, vacuum it, had to send bed coverings to the dry cleaners to get all the fiberglass out. It was just a really, really big ordeal, big ordeal. And thankfully, nobody was hurt by any of that except for my nuts. And, we were at that house until probably 8:30 at night, and we should have left around 3 or 4. So that's a good learning experience. I've also spent years and years and years working in hospitals, working in office buildings for hospitals, working in like imaging labs for MRIs and CAT scans, working in the emergency room, working in operating rooms and catheter labs. So in those areas, if you don't keep things clean, people can die. So you figure out how to keep things clean really fast, and you don't put anything as a higher priority than cleanliness and containment. So
I can attest as well. Falling through an attic or falling through a ceiling is not safe or fun at all. When I was younger, my brother and I were in the attic with my dad. And for some reason, we decided it was a good idea to race through the attic to get to a certain point.
Yeah.
And I stepped off and fell through the drywall, and one leg just hanging from the ceiling, just, yeah. It was, I had this gigantic scrape up my leg, and that was not fun.
It's terrifying.
It is terrifying because it's like everything just like goes down. Like in a heartbeat.
Oh
So,
yeah. Yeah, it is not fun.
but so I think we answered this question.
Yeah, it was probably a pretty intense way to answer that question. That's my bad. I can be pretty intense when I talk. That's my bad.
I know. I'm like, we gotta stay up here.
Stay up here. Yeah. Bottom line is we will keep your home clean. We contain dust. We contain any airborne things. We keep it clean and we keep it smelling good.
So I think we already answered this question, but how often, I think you said this, how often do you or should you renovate your bathroom? Which you had said about every 10 years, just to either keep it from, as a refresh design standpoint, or practicality from wear and tear. I mean, believe it or not, like that stuff's just gonna dry out, or your house is gonna move or whatever. It's just gonna open up cracks and expose everything.
Yeah, there's a lot that goes into that. If you have a bathroom with poor ventilation, fix your ventilation situation or be ready to redo your bathroom every 5 years. If you're not someone who's maintaining the integrity of your bathroom, you need to reseal your tile every single year. If you go 2 years with, dude, you got to reseal that. It fades away much like any coating would. Only more significantly because it's just getting pounded with soap and water constantly. And you got to reseal that stuff, especially if it's sanded grout. If you have like a silica based grout or an epoxy, then you're probably okay not sealing it every single year because that grout in and of itself is water resistant. So, and that's why it's far more expensive. I think it's worth every penny, but it is far more expensive. But man, if you're not taking care of your place, instead of it being every 10 years, it's going to creep up on you. You'll smell the mold. If you can smell the mold, you got a problem, dude. You got a big problem if you can smell it.
What does mold smell like to you?
Well, I'm allergic to mold. So when I smell mold, it smells like swollen sinuses and a headache and getting sick every month until I remedy the situation. So no, great story. So we actually we just ripped off all the tile in our master bedroom bath, and the place was littered with mold, and we could always smell it. It's kind of this dank, musty, wet smell. It's difficult. It's very, very difficult to describe, but if you've ever smelled mold, you recognize it immediately. And so we purchased this house a year and a half ago, and instantly we knew there was an issue because we could see mold on the grout, and we would clean the grout and stuff, and we were like, we don't know how long we're going to be in this house, so let's just ride this out for a bit and see. But it's gotten to that point where it's like we needed to redo it, and sure enough, we have mold spores in the studs and in the drywall. There was standing water underneath the pad for the shower, sitting on top of the pan. So that was a big issue, and we hadn't known any better and had just left it there. Then that mold would have spread and spread and spread through the house until one day we woke up and all of our leather objects were fuzzy, and everyone in the house was just like had chronic bronchitis or something, walking pneumonia. It makes you sick.
That's not good.
No, it's gross, dude. It smells gross. You'll know if it smells gross. You'll know.
Do you think remodeling a bathroom is like a DIY project? I mean, some people are, a little bit handier than others in what they do. But I mean, obviously anybody can undertake a project themselves, learn from experience and on. But for most people out there, is this, if you're like, oh, I feel handy today, is this something you think that somebody should go about doing?
No. For a lot of reasons, no. Everyone's got that friend who is a DIY guy and or gal, guy or gal. Um, everyone's got that friend that is just constantly ripping up a new part of their home to do whatever. And I think that there's kind of like a sensation seeking aspect of this where people like it's new, it's exciting, it's movement, it's change, and they start doing it and they never cross the finish line. Their house is always under construction and they have to live there. A bathroom so first off, we're professionals. I've been a carpenter for going on 17 years now. 17 years. That's almost 2 decades as a carpenter, right? I look young. I like that I look young. keeps me fresh. In any event, but that's almost 2 decades of experience as a carpenter. I worked in the Mechanical Workers Union for about 5 years. So when I go in and I do work, that's 20 years of putting in reps every single day. I am an expert. Malcolm Gladwell would be like, this guy is an expert. He put in his 1,000 hours, right? You, on the other hand, you DIYer, work a 9 to 5 somewhere and you have a hobby and maybe you are handy. Maybe you have a knack for aesthetics and you're able to put things together and make them look like they should. Maybe you have a knack for mechanics and you just like to tinker and figure out how things work and put things together. However, you who work a 9 to 5 do not have 2 decades of experience. You're subjecting your roommates or your family or whoever it is you live with to the consequences of your sensation-seeking behavior with your construction projects. It's going to take you 10 to 20 times longer than it will for us to come in and do it. And you're not 100% sure you've done it correctly. That's a big problem. What if you do something wrong in a bathroom? Here's something simple, because tile is one of those things that DIYers go for a lot. How do you waterproof a bathroom? Ask yourself that. Ask yourself how to waterproof a bathroom. Go on YouTube. There's actually a lot of different ways to do that. Go on YouTube, look up a couple different techniques, pick the one that you like and try it. Now imagine if you made one mistake while doing that. What are the consequences of that one mistake? If you'd want to know what those consequences are, take a drill, go up to your roof and drill a hole in the roof right now and see what happens to your ceiling in the next 2 months. Just one little hole. One little hole lets in a whole bunch of water, man. So you want to hire someone that knows what they're doing, can execute on time, and has insurance in case that one little mistake does happen. It's not on you.
So that brings up a good question. So if you are going to be hiring a contractor, what sort of things should you vet and look for? You know, is it a price versus value? Are there any warning signs? Do you have to get permits? Do they have a contract? I mean,
yeah, this first one's going to sound bad, but if you look at someone and their teeth are rotten to hell, I wouldn't hire him. That guy's on crack. That guy's doing some hard drugs. Contracting, there's a lot of us, right? 60% of contractors in America have fewer than 150 employees, I think it was. And that actually includes some pretty big companies, but you got two Chucks in a truck pulling up, and the first thing out of their mouth is, "We ain't cheap." And you see their teeth, and their teeth look like a bowl of melted caramel. You got a problem. I would not hire that individual. I don't care but I don't care if you have to take out a loan to pay for whatever you are doing to get a higher quality individual. Do not hire that person. That's a huge red flag. That's a huge red flag. Outside of that, it's just like picking out picking out anything else. There's different qualities of different things. You can go to McDonald's and you can get a burger off the dollar menu and you know exactly what you're getting. You could go to Five Guys, get one of their burgers and you know what you're getting there. Or you could go to a Rodeo Goat or Kenny's and you could get one of their burgers. And you're going to pay for it, man. You can't eat at Rodeo Goat and get a burger and fries for less than $20, man. But I tell you what, it's the best damn burger you ever ate.
That's true.
Yeah. And look, there's nothing wrong with eating off the dollar menu. I love the dollar menu. But
well,
it's
not really the dollar menu anymore. It's like the $1.99 menu.
It is. It'll always be the dollar menu in my heart. But
Yes.
but at the end of the day, you know what you're buying. So if you go out and you get several bids and you think to yourself, man, I really like the sound of this $9,000 bathroom remodel, you're going to get a $9,000 bathroom remodel. I promise you that. I promise you that. So those are the things to look out for is, am I signing a contract? What does that contract look like? What is my contractor's insurance policy? Our insurance policy has a $2 million aggregate. That is sufficient for almost any commercial client that you're going to run into, and their insurance requirements for Walmart, McDonald's, Chick-fil-A. What is that other one? What was it? Love's Truck Stops. If you look at the insurance requirements for those types of projects, it's going to be up there. Insurance requirements for new home builders, right? Or people that are doing full remodels that include roofing, windows, siding, all of that good stuff. Going to be much higher requirements than some guy that's just running around hustling project to project, week to week, doing that sort of thing. You know, you want to work
insurance
if they're carrying insurance. So yeah, I would just say do your due diligence and look into the company that you're working with. You know, go to their website, talk to them on the phone. I implore anyone to sit down with me and grill me on anything that I am advertising on my website or on social media. Come to me, grill me, find out if it's true for yourself. If you think you know more about framing or finish carpentry or plumbing or anything like that than me or one of my guys, challenge us. Figure out who we are. Figure out what you're paying for.
That's true. You got to do your due diligence. So that's all the questions that I had for today's OAC. Is there anything else you wanted to
coming at it? Yeah, I was coming at it pretty intense all day today. That's good.
Yeah, you were.
That's good. I'll find my comfort zone with these things. But
Yeah.
no, with bathroom remodels, I think bathroom remodels are really the same as anything else. The more specific that you are up front, the better things are. That's what I always tell people is if you want to receive the product that you are purchasing, you first have to know what you want to purchase, and then you need to know what are you purchasing. And there's a series of processes and methods in the construction industry to guarantee that all parties involved know what the conceptual design is, as well as the required finished product. Sometimes it might seem onerous to follow through on executing all of those various things. However, it is necessary. You don't want to reach the end of the job and have things be up in the air, whether that's design, whether that's quality, whether that is price, whether that is timing. Specificity and communication will resolve all of those things.
I think that goes true with any sort of project across
Absolutely
any different medium, not just construction. So
oh, for sure. For sure.
Cool. Well, this has been the OAC episode number 2. If y'all have any questions or like this video, go ahead and comment below. Send us an email at hello@roostergc.com, and we look forward to seeing you on the next one.
Hell yeah. All right.
Later.